What's up, YouTube? Thanks for joining us for Straight Shot with Tactical Advantage, your home for firearms and self-defense related news. We have quite a few stories that drummed up this week in the gun industry, so let's jump right in. First up, the LNO Group, which is a Swiss-owned manufacturing firm that has several firearms-related companies under its umbrella, most notably SIG Sauer, has made a bold move in acquiring a controlling interest in German sport guns. German sport guns is an increasingly popular manufacturer with a strong focus on rimfire offerings. GSG has brought several rimfire-based replicas to the United States over the past several years. Some of their more recognizable variants are the HK-inspired GSG-5, as well as the .22 long rifle German Sport AK-47. GSG also has a very popular line of .22 long rifle 1911 replicas that are trending well in the US market as well as abroad. The LNO Group also owns some other iconic brands in the world of firearms, most notably Mauser and Blazer. The recent acquisition was no surprise to industry insiders, as GSG has been supplying rimfire-based firearms to SIG Sauer for many years for rebranding and sale under the SIG brand. There has been a strategic partnership in place for several years that keen-eyed SIG owners may have noticed in the thinly veiled release of several of SIG's firearms. We expect to see a large brand push for GSG versus absorption into the LNO Group's other well-known holdings. Next, on a safety note, on June 13th, Smith & Wesson announced a safety recall which encompasses nearly the entire Thompson Center centerfire rifle line. Smith & Wesson, which is the parent company of Thompson Center, has been plagued with QA/QC issues since its acquisition of the Thompson Center brand a few years ago. In its press release, Thompson Center has cited a safety lever defect in which the safety lever could bind, allowing a false engagement of the safety. The potential failure of the safety to fully engage could cause the firearm to default to a fire position when actuating the bolt and chambering around, resulting in a ready-to-fire rifle while the shooter is assumed that the rifle is unsafe. Thompson has made it clear in the release that the rifle would not fire under this condition unless the trigger is actuated. To their credit, Smith & Wesson is performing a large recall which affects all of the Icon, Venturi, and Dimension rifle lines produced before 6/13/2013. For more information on this recall, the public posting can be found on Smith & Wesson's website under the Product Safety Information tab. Next, we have some exciting news on the new product front. Springfield Armory's much anticipated XDS 9mm is beginning to hit dealer shelves. The ultra-thin carry gun from Springfield Armory, which made its public debut at the 2013 SHOT Show, has been highly anticipated by Springfield Armory fans and concealed carry practitioners throughout the country. The XDS 9mm shares nearly every dimension with the very successful XDS chambered in .45 ACP. The major hype surrounding the SDS 9mm is the increased shot capacity of 7 rounds in 9mm versus 5 rounds in the .45 ACP. A welcome attribute of the XDS 9mm is the reduced recoil of the 9mm cartridge over the XDS 45, which has been reported to be manageable but not necessarily enjoyable for some shooters. Keep your eyes open for the XDS at your local dealers. Next, on the federal front, the United States Army announced a halt to any and all testing of the improved carbine competition. The Army was holding testing and development of modern carbine battle rifles as a precursor to replace the much beloved M4 battle rifle that has been serving the armed forces in full distribution for over 40 years in some variant. There were 8 manufacturers participating in the improved carbine competition, all of which very recognizable in the firearms industry. The 8 companies participating were Adcor Defense, Beretta, Colt Defense, FNH USA, Heckler & Koch, Lewis Machine and Tool, Remington Defense, and Troy Defense. It was released that none of the offerings provided by any of the manufacturers met the minimum requirements set forth by the Army in respects to product reliability. The failure of any of the offerings to meet the reliability requirements poses a $300 million budgetary surplus for the U.S. Army, as the procurement funds for the improved carbine were allocated before the testing phase began. This just goes to show us all what the M4 represents to our armed forces. In its long history of military service, it still proves to be a weapons platform that's truly hard to beat. Lastly, let's briefly touch on the Second Amendment news for this week. Governor Brian Sandoval protected the rights of the citizens of Nevada this week by vetoing the oppressive gun control bill presented to him with SB 221. SB 221 passed the Assembly by the skin of its teeth, with all Assembly Republicans in opposition, as well as 4 Democrats. Under much debate, the bill made its way to the governor. With extreme pressure placed on him by constituents of the Bloomberg Group, as well as other anti-freedom groups, Governor Sandoval chose to side with the people of his state. Pro and anti-communication was so high in this highly heated discussion that a separate phone line had to be created to field calls from citizens of Nevada and other Americans opposing SB 221 ratification. Governor Sandoval deserves our appreciation for standing up to the bullies which are trying to erode and limit freedoms by pushing non-effective gun control legislation on us all. With that being said, thanks for joining us here at Tactical Advantage for our 3rd episode of Straight Shot. Stay tuned every week for your recap of firearms industry news, as well as self-defense and pro-freedom information. Thanks for watching.